We want to welcome you back to our program, United in Diversity. We are broadcasting from IAS here in the Philippines. We want to welcome for those who are joining us online and those who are watching on television. And we want to welcome our audience here at IAS who are participating in our program. This afternoon, we are going to deal with love issues because the world has become way too complex. It is true that love was given to us by God. One of the very first things that God did on the very first week, but it has become way too complex. And it's becoming like a maze, and we want to be able to navigate that maze. And that's the reason why today I have invited people from all different cultures. And before we can start, I just want to let everyone know that views expressed on this program don't reflect IAS. They only reflect opinions of our program participants. And so without further ado, let me start by asking our participants to introduce themselves by starting on that side. Tell us who you are, where you come from, what your name, where you come from, and what you're doing here at IAS.
My name is Henry Tembo. I come from Southeast Africa, from a country called Malawi. I am completing my master's in religion with a concentration in Old Testament here at IAS.
Well, one thing about you, Henry, is that you may have been born in Malawi, but I think culturally speaking, you don't know much about Malawi, do you?
Well, 18 years removed from my home country, so you could say that I've lost a little bit.
Not just a little bit, you have lost a lot of it. All right, we'll see when we start going through the discussion.
Yes,
we'll try to see which culture you fit in more, but most likely you'll be fitting more in the American culture. Anyways, let's go to the next person. Tell us who you are, where you're from, and what you're doing here.
My name is Sergo Namuradze. I come from the colorful country of Georgia, and right now I am studying for PhD in religion.
Thank you very much. Welcome, welcome. Let's go to the next person.
Hello. Hello, I'm Brian Tolentino. I am coming from the Philippines here in this country, and I'm currently now the senior pastor of the IAS Church.
Welcome, welcome, Pastor Tolentino.
I'm Myla Dizon. I work here in IAS, the seminary, as a secretary, and I also study.
Thank you so much, and welcome, Mrs. Dizon. I have a question for you to get us started with this interesting topic. What love problems do you think are people facing today in your own culture or in your own country? Let's start with Mrs. Dizon.
So I think it's more about relationship and their understanding of what the relationship is all about.
Yeah. All right. Let's go to the next person, pastor in the Philippines. I know you have been a pastor for some time. What issues have you seen in the church or in the country in general?
Well, in the Philippines, I've been pastor for like 13 years now. What is unique with the Philippines is because there is no divorce in the Philippines. And since there is no divorce, whatever conflicts there is, they just separate and then just go from one person to another person without any closure. And so it's causing a lot of problems to the Philippines. But at the same time, on the other hand, it's also keeping the Philippines conservatively strong in their family because there is no divorce and they have to stick to it and they have to deal with it. And so many have dealt with it, others have not.
Wow. Okay. One thing, though, I want to clarify about the Philippines. I know they used to, it was like a prohibited before, but I think today it is no longer prohibited. It's just that the cost is very, very high that people just feel like, I don't want to even go through it because the process is long and it's very costly. Is that correct?
Well, it's more of a certain religion is so much in control of this, but I've heard that during the election time, on the profiles of all the senators, many of them have already agreed. Many of them are already agreed with the divorce. But I think, yes, in a way, both the Catholic Church is opening up. And when the Catholic opens, the Philippines opens.
And for our viewers who may not know this about the Philippines is a predominantly Catholic country, and it's the main Christian country here in Southeast Asia, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, if you want to have like divorce, we call it annulment in the Philippines, means that annulment is that they're canceling the power of your marriage. But it would cost you as much as 300 to 400,000 pesos.
And that is in the US dollars, you're looking at 8,000, 10,000 US dollars actually. And for somebody who's earning like $300, $400 a month US dollars, to be able to come up with $8,000 to $10,000, it just makes that a process that nobody wants to take.
It takes you like 3 years of a regular salary.
Interesting. Yes, going to Georgia, what are some of the issues that you have seen there?
There are so many issues, just like in other countries, and Georgia is not an exception. So let me put this way, that looking for a genuine love, something that is not superficial and long-lasting, maybe that's the main problem that young people are facing today.
And what is causing this, you think?
In my country, in particular, maybe one of the reasons is the fake westernization. So there are so many good things we can learn from the West, but unfortunately, the fastest to be learned things are not the best things. So maybe the way West understands love and how it exposes its own values and concepts of love, and how fast we're acquiring it, maybe that's the biggest problem.
Interesting. Let's go to Henry Tembo. What love problems have you seen around?
Well,
I'm not asking which ones you have had. I'm asking what you have seen around.
Yeah, I think I can't speak from my cultural perspective because it's been a while since I've been home. But I think I'll speak from personal experience, and I've discovered that sometimes you say A, and she'll understand C, B, and D, and you're like, no, I'm just talking about A. So I have learned that communication seems to be a big challenge among couples, and I've even experienced it in my own experience. And sometimes this cultural factor, because we communicate differently in our own cultures, it creates a problem. And so I think communication would be one issue that people face.
Interesting. Let's go to another question here. What role does entertainment have about love issues? Let's start with the pastor, church pastor, Pastor Tolentino.
Well, entertainment is quite very subjective. One is entertainment for him, while the other is annoying for him. So I think when it comes to relationship, before you consider relationship, you should also consider your own entertainment. I mean, because it would cause a lot of problems when it comes to marriage. Take, for example, when another culture has this kind of entertainment and this does not fit to other culture, then this would seem to be a problem, especially in the culture of the Philippines. Basically, there are two cultures in the Philippines, one in the south and one in the north, and then another one in the far north. But basically, it's divided like into two. But when it comes to entertainment, they need to realize, I mean, in your relationship, you must be enjoying the same. But when there is love, of course, you have to fit in. You have to understand this. So for me, this is very much relational. But you needed to know how you could fit first on understanding another's entertainment before you have a relationship.
Very good, very good. That's a philosophical answer. But let's see if we can get something a little less philosophical from Mrs. Dizon.
More a practical answer, because I'm a mother.
Very good.
So, we had this big problem about entertainment, because we must admit that right now, as westernization has is in full bloom all over the world. And so we have the problem of the entertainment educating our children, the world of entertainment. So they have all this wrong concept. And what do we do as parents? What do we do in the church? So this is a big thing.
So how do we deal with? Okay, before that, let's hear from the other two gentlemen. What role is entertainment playing
Well,
in love issues?
the love is given by God to human beings for pleasure and for entertainment at the same time. But when it becomes entertainment only, then love becomes so much superficial. We live in the world in the age of entertainment, especially electronic entertainment, virtual entertainment, and love became a component of it. And the reason why the number of divorces is growing is maybe because they look at it as an entertainment. As soon as the game is over, you switch to another game because you don't want entertainment to finish. And love is something deeper and more serious. And maybe this is the major thing. We cannot look at love as a fast food. Right.
That is a very, very interesting point, very profound point. That probably part of the divorces that we have today, the rate is increasing in all countries. It might be simply because people look at marriage just like another entertainment. Just as we have been used to entertainment on YouTube, on TV, movies, and music, you just want that excitement going all the time. And we come into marriage with this same concept. Of course, when you're dating, it's like it's very exciting, just like entertainment. After 2, 3, 4, 5 years, if you watch the same movie over and over for 5 years, you maybe want to get as excited watching that movie as the first time you watched it. And so this is an interesting aspect to this problem, that maybe this fast move entertainment may be affecting also the relationships in marriages. I think you want to add something before
I'd like
Henry
to add
speaks.
a brief thought about it. Most of the movies, love movies, usually they're so fascinating. They make you cry, and the entire scenario is usually how to put these two young people together. And usually movie ends when they come together and marry, but nobody shows what goes on after. So the entire educational domain of love is just to bring those two hearts together. Nobody educates then what's next. And that's one of the problem.
One thing I've been asking when I give trainings on research in different universities, I have been asking people, how many of you did like 6 months intensive training on marriage before you got married? And everybody laughs. But isn't this also one of the reasons why we're having problems? It's because we really do not know how to love. We have never done any training, completed any training on how to love, how to live a married life, or how to rear children. And therefore, we're just using common sense. And yet, if you want to be a babysitter in the United States, you need to be certified. You have to go through training. You want to be a driver, you need to go through training. You want to be a pastor, you need to go through training. Whatever you want to do, you have to be certified. You have to go through rigorous training. And yet, marriage and parenting being some of the most important jobs in the world, we do not get any training for that. Yes, let's go to you, sir.
Yeah, I think, to be honest, the first time I saw somebody kiss somebody, I think was on a movie. You understand? And you start to learn how to interact with the girl through a movie, After a certain time, like after 2 months, you need to ask her, can I kiss you? Stuff like that. So I think from a youth perspective, I learned a lot of the wrong things through entertainment and these movies, and girls be telling you, you need to do it, you need to love me like the guy on the Titanic or the Notebook, bring me flowers every day, make it sweet for me. So you're like, all right, is this a movie or what? So I think definitely entertainment has really played a big role, yeah.
And so basically the entertainment, the movie industry is portraying an ideal but maybe not achievable thought about love. And you just live in that dreamland when you're watching that movie. But when you go to reality, it's not a movie. It is not a movie. Married life or love life is not a movie. Let's go to another question. What are your thoughts about homosexuality? Which is another type of love. And I wish Dr. Cruz was back here, because the other day he was telling me about a student who traveled from Niger and was going to study in his country in Brazil. And he was getting, I hope I get this right, he was getting on the bus. He saw two young ladies kissing each other because they were in love. And this Nigerian from Niger student just lost it. He could not stand it. He just wanted to speak and let them know how he was disgusted and so on. And that was wrong. They should stop that immediately, and so on and so on. I know that Christians have already a stand, at least from the biblical perspective. Okay? But I want you personally, what are your thoughts about homosexuality? Let's start with the pastor, since you have a microphone with you.
Well, my concern is not more on the homosexuals. My concern is more on the cultural perspective, especially of my nation. I don't know about other nations. The more you accept this kind, it's not that we do not accept these people as people, but when we just accept it, just becomes a culture of, it becomes a culture. Like in the television nowadays, hosts are homosexuals and all of this. It's more accepted rampantly all throughout the Philippines, wherever you go. So it just sprout like mushrooms wherever. Yes, I could consider another guy, but women with another women, they're holding hands, they have even kids. I'm not more concerned about the homosexuals. It's the culture that has already accepted it. But there are countries I know that does not accept it, and you cannot, show them. Maybe you can see some, but not the majority. Like in the Philippines, I'm talking about 1 or 2 out of 10 are homosexuals. This was not used to be before. Like in the whole university or whole campus, you could just see 1, 2, or 3 of them. But now, every classroom has less than 1/4 of them. Why? Because I think we have run away from the scriptures. We just wanted to go just like the entertainment that we see.
Very well said, Mrs. Dizon. You know, of the 5 countries represented here, I think Philippines has more homosexuals than any other country.
Right.
Because it's homosexuality here in the Philippines. I've heard this from a number of Filipinos. It's something that is found as cute. When you see a man acting like a woman, it's really something that is fun. It's funny. It's entertaining. And so I think you can enlighten us more than anybody else.
Okay. This one touches actually more on a personal, because we have a close one who is a homosexual and I'm a member of the family. And so to protect my children, I have to take extra effort to educate them early on of their identity. Because I think whether you're from any different kind of religion, this is a problem of the world today. And so we must take an active part as parents to educate our children. And it always starts with identity, who you are in God's hand. Even with the abuses that happens, it always comes down to identity. So I have to start that with my kids to make it stronger. Start from what the Bible says, of course, that God did not create Steve and yeah, Adam and Steve, but he created Adam and Eve. So with that, only two sexes, and start from that, and then the identity that God loves you, and teach them how to be a man. For me, I appreciate this one. The amazing facts have turned out. They're going to show this later on, I think. We need our men to be men. And we have destroyed that with women's lib and other things like that. So I believe that we have to return. Let our men be men. And it starts with childhood, who they are. Let them learn responsibility so that they will be stronger as men. And we as women are there to support them. And let us also as mothers and also as sisters to model what it is to be a woman.
Very well stated. Yes, let's go to Georgia.
You better don't go to Georgia with this issue, with the topic of homosexuality, because it was mentioned earlier that there are so many homosexuals in Philippines than in other countries. I don't know whether this is true or not, because we see them in Philippines. Actually, the first time I saw them exposed to the public was here. I was shocked, because in a number of countries, including in my country, society is extremely hostile, and we have, unfortunately, we had a number of instances when homosexuals were murdered. And unfortunately, I feel we sometimes go from one extreme to another extreme. We either look at them with suspicion, or we just embrace the culture of homosexuality to the extent that maybe is too much. This is a very complex issue, and it's a big topic. But one of the reasons I believe there is homosexuality is a lack of love. Because people are looking for love, and they cannot find the love, both men and women. Another problem is, I'm not a psychologist, I cannot speak from the perspective of human body, but we have to admit that there is no worse and better sin. Homosexuality is not worse than pride, and yet we baptize proud people. And then oftentimes we have a lot of problem because of them comparing to homosexuals in the church. So we just look at things from how they look like, from the point of outfit. If I can recall a brief example, illustration, we had a camp where we were training people how to run the camp, Christian camp, and one of the group, people were divided by groups, and one of the leader of groups of girls, she approached me and said, "We have a problem in the group." What? One of the lady, the instructor, is homosexual. She confessed that because she didn't want to go with us to showers. And I met her and I said, "Okay, what's wrong?" She said, "Yes, I'm fighting with this." She's a very devoted Christian. She even tried to get married, and she lived for 1 year with husband, and then she got divorced. And she says, "Yes, I'm fighting. What can I do?" And what is our response to these kind of people in our church? Are we going to reject them? Are we going to tell them that God does not love them? They're unacceptable? Or we'll find the ways? Or we will look at them as human beings who are also eligible for salvation. Jesus died for them as well. And we as Christians must keep that in our mind. Otherwise, homosexuals will not think that Christianity is their religion also.
Very well preached right there. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Yes.
I think I have gone through a self-education with homosexuality, because coming from where I was in the United States with my friends, honestly, I hated homos. That's what we used to call them. And there was this brother back in high school. Well, let me put it this way. It seems that the homosexuals were like more in touch with the girls. Like the girls appreciated them more, you know. And some of my girlfriends will tell me, like, I'm comfortable to undress in front of a homosexual because he's not feeling anything, you know. He's a homosexual. So to one point, it's like you hate them, but you know you're also jealous of them, if you get what I'm saying. Yeah, but generally speaking, I really didn't want anything to do with them. I mean, it was even difficult for me to like give a guy who is straight a proper hug, you know, because I'm like, you know, I'm too gangster for that, you know. I can't give you a hug. It's just, you know, a little handshake, and that's all right. Then I come to the Philippines, and honestly, I'm in school, and I'm like, what's happening here? I go to the registrar's office back in AUP, and one of the ladies, clearly the guy is gay, and she says to the guy, she's like, how is your boyfriend? And I'm like, what? How can she do that? Like that's crazy, you know. I'm like about to jump out of my clothes and tell a lady, you know, that's wrong, you know. But with time, my perspective has changed. I do not condone homosexuals, but I think that there's something we can do for them to realize that the love of God is for them. And I think Pastor's on point when he says pride is just as sinful as homosexuality. So I think just the last point, I had a chance to go to BCall some time ago, and there is a lady that I met there who has been a homosexual like for a long time in her life, and she became a lesbian because she was abused. And a lot of them have these type of situations. But by God's grace, she was able to overcome this situation. I mean, to overcome this thing. And she said something that really revolutionized my thinking about homosexuality. He says, when you really think about a homosexual person, it's really a love for self. It boils down to a love for self. Why? You look at another woman or another man, and that person is a reflection of who you are. And some of them will say, this person can understand me because they're a lady. Guys don't understand. You know, they can feel what I'm feeling. So at the root core, it's not really being with another man or another woman. It's really a love for self. And I think that is the greatest sin of all. Yeah. So I think we can do something for them, and we have to find ways to show them that the grace of God is for them as well. Yeah.
Let's hear from the pastor just one more time. A pastor, as a pastor of the church, what would you tell Christians? And we have Christians who are Adventist, Catholic, Methodist, and so on, who will be watching us here. How should we behave or treat in front of the homosexuals?
I think
as Christians,
I think we should be extra, if not double, loving to them. I've read of a book called Wired for Intimacy. Actually, we do not desire actually for like literally sex or what, but our highest desire is for intimacy. And sometimes we are looking for this intimacy in many ways, in different ways. I've been ministering to these kinds. I don't know what happened, but in my life, I've been ministering to these kinds of people again and again, even converted like 3 or 4 homosexuals already. They even go to AUP to become theology. And also dealt with, there are problems from the student services in AU in guidance that they could not solve. They even, send the child to my province where I was assigned before in Bulacan just to deal with this. And again, this would come again and again to my counseling. Whenever I go for counseling, what is unique with them is they have of the same, many of them have the same background, sexually abused. And because they lost both their identity, their dignity, they also lost the trust of people. So they were longing for this intimacy and they could not get it. So they were getting it from somebody else who has lost also their dignity, and now they understand each other, they begin to have relationship. And I'm talking about, candidly, a theology student guy to a theology student guy, both abused, both of the same background, and yet we were able to resolve them. They are still studying now because the university have dealt with them rightly and loved them doubly than the normal sexes. I think we should double our love to them, devote more of our intimate love for them, understand them, hear them, and cater to them.
Wow, that is profound. That's profound. Let's continue. Our time is running out. What are your thoughts about divorce? I know we kind of touched that a little bit. What are your thoughts about divorce? As far as love is concerned, we're not talking about theology here. Love and divorce. Should people divorce or not?
Well, I took a mic to comment on previous question, but I can comment. I can merge those two, because it is very easy to be judgmental to the issues which you yourself have never been experienced. Like, I have never been divorced, although we're separated, for the sake of dissertation writing. Yeah, but we'll reunite tomorrow. Yes. So
For our audience who are watching, just so that you know what it means, his wife was away and she's coming back tomorrow. She's been away for a couple of months.
Yeah. I'm just kidding. So, and to my wife, she's watching us. You are welcome tomorrow. I am waiting for you. Yes. The last thing we want to do is to be judgmental toward those people who've experienced something that we have never experienced ourselves. So yes, this is life, and sometimes, unfortunately, this happens. And again, there are so many reasons for that. And we as a church, as Christians, must make sure that we accept people who they are, as they are, and have them feel welcome, even if they are divorced. Because if we will be judgmental, let me tell you a story, okay? I'm a pastor, like to give you a short story. There was a lady, single mother, who gave birth to a child. She was very good, devoted Christian, but something happened, and she spent the night with a person, so she gave a birth to a child without being ever married. And everybody in the church would always speak about rumor about her. And there was one particular lady, she would always give trouble to this lady. She would always sit behind her and whisper something very painful, like, was it good? Do you feel fine? Things like that. So you gave birth without being married, what a Christian you are. So she would cause this lady to cry over and over again. Every worship, she would know that she would come and cry. So the boy was growing, and it just happened so that the lady who was constantly poking her sister in Christ, she had a daughter, and when kids grew, the boy fell in love with the daughter. And the boy was so handsome and well educated, so polite, and such a good Christian. He was about to become a pastor. And the lady, the young girl, was also so good. And when they were already engaged, the mother said to her son, you know, I have to tell you one story, one secret, and then you decide. This is what was going on throughout the years. So now you decide whether you want to marry this girl or not. And he decided not to marry, to break up. And when the girl came to know what was the reason, you may guess what kind of talk she may had with her mother. So we have to be extremely careful when we judge people who have undergone things which we have never experienced in our life.
Thank you so much. Pastor Henry, you want to add something before we go to our last question?
Well, I think just from an experience, my brother is going through a divorce at the moment, and
Sorry about that.
yeah, it's tough because you hear from him, you hear from my sister-in-law, and you are just kind of powerless to do anything because people have gone through, they have made up their minds or whatever. So I think, and I was reflecting with my older brother, and I was telling him, I said, bro, what have you thought about your kids and how are they gonna react to this? How are they gonna go through the situation? It's like, bro, I know, man, but I just can't deal with it anymore. I just gotta get out. And so my thoughts is that it has devastating effects on especially the children. And I've even talked to friends who their parents have lived for a long time. These are kids who are they are already married, but the fact that they hear that their parents divorced, it's just one of those devastating things. So I think for me, those are my personal thoughts, and I it's not a nice thing to see that people divorce, and I just wish that people could work these issues out and try to fix it because of the effect on other people.
Thank you so much. Those were profound ideas. We want to go to the last one. Now, what are some of the solutions to all these different problems that we have talked about? Let's start with Mrs. Dizon.
Obviously, problems are but a result of the presence of sin in this world. And we cannot avoid problems. There will always be problems in terms of relationships, in terms of all this perversion regarding sexuality and sexual orientation. At the same time, also in a relationship, there are divorces, so it differs also from one country to another. But obviously, all the purpose of God for human relationship is for us to be happy. And as the other group has also already shared about, when God is the center in any relationship, even just your relationship with God, it makes it everything, you can go through everything knowing and understanding that there is someone who's higher, your creator God, who's taking care of you. And so when these problems about divorces, and if you allow God to help you and just set aside for a while that emotions do change. So when we allow God to help us, even with the most difficult thing like forgiveness for an infidelity or something, because that can even be a gift from God. I know it's hard. I know it's not practical, but that is part of the miracle that God can do in one's life. So there is this problem, but God can help us go through it.
Thank you so much. Concluding thought, Pastor. 30 seconds.
Well, I was thinking with my father and mother. Our family is the second family of my mother and the second family of my father. I just learned something from my mother because she separated from her husband before and took my father. But my father is twice as much worse than the first one. So the question to my mother is, would I separate again and find another worse than this? No, she said, I would survive this for my children. I would learn to love my husband. And she has learned to love her husband. And my father learned to love her because my mother sacrificed to love my father even if it's worse. I think they took it by themselves that they would stick to each other because they love us. They should love each other. And there is no other way but love.
Thank you so much.
Answering the last question, I have the good news and the bad news. The good news is there is no solution for the problems. Otherwise, there is no need for the end of the world. These problems will never end. There is no solution, sorry. The bad news, why it is good news? Because Jesus will come soon. As those problems are growing and expanding. The bad news is there is only one person you can control. And it's yourself. And why it's bad news? The only person you can control, you really don't. So you better try to do your best in order to solve your own problems before He will come.
And only that is possible through His power. Let's go to the
I
last
think
one.
the Christian family has a great work in the world we live in to show that, yes, we live in a world of sin, but I believe that love is possible in spite of the difficulties and the challenges that exist. So I think the onus is on us as Christians to show that, yes, there are problems, there are issues, but there is Christ in the center. I can argue, I can fight, but at the end of the day, I can pray and I'll not go to sleep with anger in my heart. And I think that is what is needed today. So I think that's what I can say.
Thank you so much. Let's put our hands together for our participants. Thank you for what you have shared with us. We started by saying that love came from God. He gave it to men and women. And we want to end by saying that even if that love has been distorted by the devil himself, it is still God who can give us the strength to love truly and to live a life that where we can solve the issues of love. We want to thank you for being with us today. If you have questions and suggestions or comments and you want other topics to be discussed at United in Diversity, please email us at united@ias.edu. Again, the email is united@ias.edu. Thank you so much. Until we meet again next time, we want to encourage you to stay united in diversity. Thank you.